so you can have the fuel economy you need with the size car you want.
A car designed for those who appreciate the distinctive in personal transportation.
It's your new Barcelona 2.
Everyone loves to brag about their classic rides. Sleek lines, roaring engines, and timeless appeal. But let's be real. Not every old car deserves a spot in the museum. Some models were so poorly built, awkwardly designed, or laughably marketed that they crashed and burned long before nostalgia could save them. From luxury cars that couldn't act luxurious to innovations that no one asked for, these disasters prove one thing. History doesn't always polish every rust bucket into a gem. So, join us as we explore 25 old car models that failed miserably.
Idea in automobiles. Now, from the 10 great American Motors plants to the thousands of Nash dealers and Hudson dealers everywhere comes a spectacular new car.
If there was ever a masterclass in how to sink a company faster, the Hudson Jet delivered it with style, or rather, with none at all. Hudson tried to jump into the compact market but rushed the Jet out with awkward proportions and zero charm. Instead of luring budget-conscious buyers, they slapped on a surprisingly high price tag, practically begging people to shop elsewhere. To make things worse, the Jet lacked innovation and felt more like an afterthought than a real competitor. By the time Nash swooped in to absorb Hudson, the Jet had already driven the company into obscurity. It was less a compact car and more a compact disaster on wheels. If Hudson miscalculated with a dull compact, could Kaiser's flashy but impractical sports car do any better? Leave it to Kaiser to think that sliding doors and a fiberglass body could make up for everything else the Darren lacked. On paper, this sports car should have dazzled. In reality, it had the performance of a tired lawnmower and a price tag that screamed, "Don't even bother." Fewer than 500 unlucky buyers drove home in one, and most probably regretted it before the first oil change. Sure, it looked unique parked in a driveway, but once on the road, the Darren was all show and absolutely no go. Calling it a sports car was like calling a tricycle a racing bike. Cute idea, but no one's fooled.
The 1967 Imperial offers you unprecedented luxury.
Chrysler's attempt to dethrone Cadillac and Lincoln, the Imperial. If the plan was to sell a rolling living room disguised as luxury, they nailed it. Sadly, the 1970s Imperial was bloated, clumsy, and so out of touch that buyers barely glanced at it. Instead of radiating sophistication, it radiated the aura of too big, too late. Even the name sounded desperate, like Chrysler was insisting on respect nobody wanted to give. Packed with weight, thirsty for gas, and devoid of true prestige, the Imperial couldn't keep pace with the luxury market. In the end, it became a lesson in how not to chase Cadillac, unless the goal was to trip over your own oversized hubcaps.
Now we're introducing a new diesel V8 in midsize cars, so you can have the fuel economy you need with the size car you want.
Nothing says innovation quite like building a diesel engine so bad it ruins an entire brand's reputation. Oldsmobile, in a moment of genius, thought that converting gas engines into diesels would save time and money. Spoiler, it didn't. These engines blew gaskets, cracked blocks, and coughed themselves to death faster than you could say, warranty claim. GM's gamble not only tanked sales but also obliterated American confidence in diesel cars for decades. Instead of ushering in a fuel-efficient future, Oldsmobile gave us a cautionary tale on how to alienate customers overnight. If you wanted a diesel that doubled as a financial black hole, this was your car.
Brakes on your Eagle Premier Limited.
Okay, I'm driving. A tree falls in the road. I'm getting closer and closer and closer.
Sir, you're going to have to stop.
My point exactly.
If blandness could be weaponized, the Eagle Premier would have been unstoppable. Chrysler inherited this awkward Renault AMC creation and tried to pass it off as a premium sedan for the modern American family. Spoiler alert, no one bought it. Yes, it had a roomy interior and a dash of European influence, but the styling was so generic it made wallpaper look exciting. Add in Chrysler's confused branding, Because what exactly was an Eagle anyway? And you had a sales disaster. Reliability worries didn't help either, since AMC's reputation wasn't exactly sparkling. The Premier was less a flagship sedan and more a placeholder mistake, quickly forgotten in the crowded late 80s market. When the Premier struggled to find identity, how did Ford's once iconic Thunderbird falter with its bloated redesign?
Ford Styling and Engineering Center in Dearborn, Michigan, comes another Ford First, a car designed for those who appreciate the distinctive in personal transportation. The new Ford Thunderbird.
Once upon a time, the Thunderbird was Ford's sleek, stylish darling. By the late 80s, it had eaten too many donuts and turned into a heavy, uninspiring blob. Ford stretched it out, fattened it up, and somehow sucked all the personality out of a once iconic nameplate. Sure, it had technology like independent rear suspension, but when the looks scream airport rental fleet, no one cares. Enthusiasts who remembered the classic two-seater could only weep at what the T-Bird had become. Sales dropped like a lead balloon, proving nostalgia alone couldn't save this misfire. It wasn't just a bird, it was a turkey.
The only way to travel is Cadillac style.
Alante by Cadillac, featuring a high-output V8.
Imagine spending millions just to create a car that literally flew across the Atlantic before it hit the showroom floor. That was Cadillac's bright idea with the Alante. Bodies were handcrafted by Pininfarina in Italy, loaded onto jumbo jets, flown to Detroit, and then awkwardly paired with American drivetrains. The result? A Frankenstein's monster of a luxury roadster that cost a fortune, yet still managed to feel unfinished. Quality was inconsistent, the electronics were fussy, and buyers weren't fooled by Cadillac's Euro-American gimmick. With prices pushing luxury Mercedes territory, customers simply laughed and bought the real thing instead. In the end, the Alante was more famous for its bizarre travel itinerary than its performance on the road.
That's Mercedes 560 SL, outstanding. But compare them to Riata by Buick. Riata has more standard luxury features than BMW.
Buick decided the world desperately needed a two-seater luxury car that was neither luxurious nor practical. Enter the Riata, a strange coupe/convertible hybrid that looked like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. It came with a digital touchscreen display that was more annoying than futuristic, performance that could barely outrun a minivan, and a price tag that said, "I'm delusional." Space? Minimal. Prestige? Non-existent. Even Buick fans were baffled by this oddity, and the wider market didn't even bother to notice it. Production numbers were laughably low, and by 1991, the Riata quietly disappeared. Buick had aimed for a Corvette rival but ended up with a car nobody asked for, and even fewer people bought. If Buick couldn't sell an American two-seater, how could a British-built Sterling possibly survive in the demanding U.S. market?
There is one British automobile which has no need to sing its own praises.
So comfortable, so luxurious, so obviously meant for serious driving.
If you've ever wondered how not to sell British cars in America, look no further than the Sterling 825. Essentially a rebadged Rover 800 with Honda underpinnings, it promised European charm with Japanese reliability. Too bad the reliability part never made the trip across the pond. Panels rattled, electronics failed, interiors crumbled, and buyers quickly learned that owning a Sterling meant memorizing your mechanic's number. To make matters worse, the design was about as inspiring as wet cardboard. While Honda's version of the platform thrived, Sterling flopped spectacularly, disappearing from the US in less than 5 years. In hindsight, it was less of a car and more of a slow-motion brand destruction.
A 16-valve electronic fuel-injected Maserati turbo, a 5-speed manual to-drag transaxle, and a 4-wheel disc Tevis anti-lock braking system.
Few automotive ideas scream bad decision louder than Chrysler thinking, "Hey, let's call Maserati and build a luxury coupe." Marketed as some glamorous Italian-American love child, the TC ended up more like a cheap vacation fling gone wrong. Supposedly upscale, it looked nearly identical to the humble Chrysler LeBaron, which was thousands cheaper and at least honest about what it was. The interior was Maserati in name only. The performance was meh even with a turbo. And the price tag? Pure comedy. Buyers weren't fooled for a second, and Chrysler mercifully pulled the plug after a short, embarrassing run. Today, the TC is remembered less as exotic luxury and more as Chrysler's very expensive punchline. If the TC flopped for being too expensive, what about the Yugo GVI?
Until the beloved Yugo, lowest price, dependable, basic transportation. All we've said about the Beetle is true for the Yugo, but it isn't homely.
Perhaps no car wore the crown of failure in the U.S. market quite as proudly as the Yugo GV. Billed as the cheapest new car in America, it lured in bargain hunters who quickly discovered they'd basically bought frustration on four wheels. The build quality? Let's just say trim pieces fell off faster than buyers' patience. Engines gave up the ghost early, rust appeared before the first oil change, and safety ratings made cardboard boxes look secure. Parts were scarce, reliability was laughable, and late-night comedians had a field day. Sure, its rock-bottom price tempted a few optimists, but reality spread like wildfire. By the early 90s, the Yugo vanished from showrooms, immortalized as the punchline of the car world.
Lincoln Mercury will give you $750 back on a new Capri, $750 on a new Zephyr, or $750 on a new Cougar.
Reviving a nameplate sounds great on paper until you end up with the Mercury Capri, which proved that slapping an old badge on a new mess doesn't equal success. Sure, the first imports in the early 70s had a brief moment of glory, but by the late 70s and 80s, the Capri had no clue what it wanted to be. Sporty compact? Rebadged Mustang? Random import in disguise? Even buyers were left scratching their heads. Performance never lived up to its glossy brochures. Quality control was a coin toss, and in a crowded market, it blended in like wallpaper. Without fans or an edge, the Capri's American run fizzled faster than its confused marketing campaigns, leaving Mercury with yet another "what were they thinking" moment.
You can win this 1999 Plymouth Prowler in the KISS Custom Cars Sweepstakes. It's easy to win.
Some cars are designed to grab attention, but the Plymouth Prowler proved that turning heads doesn't always translate into turning profits. Chrysler basically said, what if we built a hot rod, but made it worse, and outrolled this late 90s oddity with cartoonish open wheels and styling loud enough to wake the neighbors. Too bad they forgot the V8 and stuffed in a V6 instead, because nothing screams retro muscle like being underpowered. Add in a sky-high price, a cabin only slightly roomier than a phone booth, and zero practicality, and you had a recipe for showroom dust. Sure, it looked wild, but buyers quickly realized it was more costume jewelry than car. Today, it's a collectible curiosity, but back then, it was a very expensive punchline that didn't save Plymouth from the grave.
Matador line, I'd like to show you a really exciting new automobile. It's your new Barcelona 2.
AMC really swung for the fences with the Matador Coupe, hoping its daring design would steal thunder from Ford and GM. Instead, it mostly stole people's eyesight. With bulbous curves and proportions that looked more like a design school prank than a production car, the Matador was marketed as sporty but screamed budget rental. The interiors felt about as upscale as a discount motel, and performance was nothing to brag about, unless bragging about mediocrity was your thing. AMC, strapped for cash and marketing power, couldn't polish this oddball into anything desirable. Even NASCAR success couldn't distract buyers from the fact that the road version was cheap, awkward, and forgettable. In the end, the Matador Coupe didn't carve a niche. It carved AMC deeper into its quirky but failing reputation.
Probably Plymouth. More police cars in the United States are Plymouth Furies than any other car. Maybe you can't drive one of them, but you can have one of these.
By the late 1970s, the Plymouth Fury had ballooned into a full-blown land yacht, the kind of car that needed its own zip code just to park. Sporting massive V8s that guzzled gas like frat boys at a keg party, the Fury was hilariously out of sync with the era of oil crises and rising fuel prices. Buyers were flocking to smaller, sleeker imports, while the Fury just lumbered along looking like yesterday's news on 4 wheels. Once a proud police cruiser and family sedan, it devolved into an outdated dinosaur, big, bloated, and hopelessly behind the times. Sales tanked, Chrysler quietly shrank it down, and the once mighty Fury slipped into irrelevance. Proof, once again, that Detroit's love affair with size ended in one oversized hangover.
Triumph TR7 with 5-speed transmission or optional automatic, wide steel-belted radials, front disc brakes.
Billed as the sports car that would change everything, the Triumph TR. 7 sure did, just not in the way Triumph hoped. Instead of revolutionizing the market, it became the poster child for how to ruin a brand with sloppy build quality and mechanical drama. British Leyland promised sleek wedge styling and affordability. What buyers got was a 4-wheeled headache filled with electrical gremlins and an engine that had all the excitement of a sewing machine. Sports car fans expecting thrills got yawns, while Japanese rivals showed Americans what real reliability looked like. The TR7 wasn't a revolution. It was a reminder that no amount of flashy design can distract from an underpowered, badly built mess. If the TR7 stumbled with British build quality, could AMC's partnership with Renault offer Americans anything better?
Out of reach. Until now. Renault bridges the gap between European technology and affordability. Renault Alliance, with comfort for 5.
The Renault Alliance arrived in America like a celebrity on opening night, even snagging Motor Trend's Car of the Year award in 1983. For about 5 minutes, it looked like the French and AMC had cracked the code, a compact that promised European charm with American practicality. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Instead of rivaling Japanese compacts, the Alliance rivaled disposable appliances, flimsy, unreliable, and destined for the trash heap. Engines quit early, interiors disintegrated on schedule, and rust showed up faster than the warranty paperwork. Dealers couldn't keep up with repairs, and buyers bolted. By 1987, this alliance was officially divorced, leaving behind one of the shortest, saddest flings in automotive history.
Pontiac's innovative mid-engine Fiero is one sensational car, but some people want even more.
Nah, no thanks.
Okay, see you later.
Fiero's unique Enduraflex body resists dents and won't rust.
The Pontiac Fiero was supposed to be Detroit's mic drop moment, America's first mid-engine sports car for the masses. On paper, it looked like a Ferrari for people who clipped coupons. In reality, it was more like a rolling campfire with wheels. Sure, it turned heads with exotic styling, but once buyers realized their affordable supercar might spontaneously combust, enthusiasm cooled, literally. The anemic 4-cylinder engines didn't help, and even when Pontiac finally dropped in a V6, the damage to its reputation was already a 5-alarm blaze. GM's cost-cutting ensured flimsy build quality, making the Fiero less dream car and more mechanic's dream paycheck. By 1988, Pontiac pulled the plug, leaving behind a legacy of hype, smoke, and disappointment.
Daytime running lights. Gull-wing doors. Stainless steel construction. Turbocharged V6.
Few cars looked more like the future than the DeLorean DMC-12. With its stainless steel body, gull-wing doors, and sci-fi vibes, it practically begged for a starring role in a time travel movie. Unfortunately, driving one felt less like blasting into the future and more like crawling through molasses. Beneath that exotic shell lurked an engine so weak it could barely outrun a station wagon. Build quality? Let's just say inconsistent is polite. Add in John DeLorean's financial circus and infamous legal troubles, and the company folded faster than its gull-wing doors. Production barely lasted 2 years, leaving the DMC-12 as a pop culture legend, but an actual sales disaster. Proof that looking cool doesn't mean you can actually be cool.
1984 Cimarron by Cadillac. Smaller size, sporty handling,
With responsive 2-liter engine, onboard computer, electronic fuel injection.
The Cadillac Cimarron, the car that proved even luxury brands can phone it in, marketed as Cadillac's bold entry into the compact luxury segment, it was really just a Chevrolet Cavalier in a tuxedo from the bargain rack. For the privilege of paying thousands more, buyers got a wheezy 4-cylinder engine, an interior that screamed economy rental, and virtually no difference from GM's cheaper siblings. Critics shredded it, customers ignored it, and Cadillac's reputation took a beating that lasted years. The Cimarron wasn't just a flop, it was a masterclass in how to insult loyal buyers while torching brand prestige. To this day, it's remembered less as a car and more as a cautionary tale in badge engineering gone wrong.
Meet the new Family Lumina APV. When it comes to new ideas for the family, nobody's winning like
The heartbeat of America.
When Chevrolet decided to jump into the hot minivan market, it thought, why not build something that looks like a dustbuster on wheels? Let's explore the Lumina APV, a plastic-bodied oddball with a windshield so long you needed binoculars to see the wipers. GM bragged about its futuristic styling, but families just wanted a normal van, not a rejected Star Trek prop. Inside, things didn't get better. Cheap plastics, awkward controls, and rear seats so heavy they doubled as gym equipment. Supposedly a Chrysler fighter, the Lumina APV instead became the butt of playground jokes. By the mid-1990s, Chevy threw in the towel, proving once again that not every vision of the future deserves to exist in the present. The second-generation Ford Mustang, marketed as Mustang II, was Ford's brilliant idea of turning an icon into, well, a Pinto in a nicer outfit. Launched in 1974, just as fuel shortages and regulations were strangling muscle cars, it traded fire-breathing V8s for wheezy 4- and 6-cylinder engines that made acceleration about as thrilling as watching paint dry. Sure, it sold reasonably well during the gas crisis, but enthusiasts felt betrayed. This wasn't a Mustang, it was a midlife crisis on wheels. Add bland styling, a cramped interior, and performance that barely registered, and the Mustang II quickly became the black sheep of the family. To this day, it's remembered less as a Mustang and more as a cautionary tale, proof that even legends can have an awkward, embarrassing phase.
No American car has ever had EPA mileage ratings as high as this car, the new Chevy Chevette.
Want to buy some homemade cookies?
When imports started eating Detroit's lunch in the 70s, Chevy proudly served up the Chevette, essentially America's bargain bin answer to reliable transportation. Translation: it was cheap, it moved, and that's about it. Styling was as exciting as a filing cabinet. The interior felt like a punishment, and the underpowered engine begged for mercy every time it saw a highway on-ramp. Quality control, let's just say optional. Between the rattles, rust, and mechanical tantrums, owners quickly learned that low price also meant low expectations. Yes, it sold decently because it was cheap, but respect? Not a chance. The Chevette wasn't a smart buy, it was proof that sometimes you really do get what you pay for.
There is mid-sized room for 5 adults in Citation.
The first Chevy of its kind.
The 1980 Chevrolet Citation was supposed to be GM's big leap into the future. Front-wheel drive, modern styling, fuel efficiency. And for about 5 minutes, everyone bought the hype. Then, the owners actually drove the thing. Suddenly, landmark innovation turned into landmine ownership. Transmissions melted down, brakes wore out faster than socks, and the torque steer yanked the car around like it had a mind of its own. Warranty claims piled up so fast, GM probably needed a separate department just to apologize. The Citation went from sales hit to industry punchline in record time. By 1985, GM put it out of its misery, leaving behind a textbook lesson in how not to launch a revolution. If the citation showed GM's failures in compacts, what happened when Ford tried to sell a gussied-up Granada as the Versailles?
The best is yet to come, and babe, won't it be fine?
For 1979, a beautiful new styling of Lincoln Versailles.
The Lincoln Versailles, because nothing says luxury like slapping a vinyl roof and extra soundproofing on a Ford Granada and calling it a day. In the late 1970s, Lincoln figured buyers wouldn't notice or care that their European rival was basically a dressed-up family sedan with a designer price tag. Spoiler, they noticed. Critics shredded it for lazy badge engineering, and customers weren't lining up to overpay for a Granada in a tuxedo. Sales tanked, and Lincoln yanked the Versailles after a short, humiliating run. Today, it's remembered less as a luxury sedan and more as a masterclass in automotive laziness.